Hi everybody, it's Bud again with Bud's Hot Sports Takes. This time we're going to talk a little bit about the preseason for NFL and some of the problems, both with the problems with the preseason in general and with DFS, Daily Fantasy Sports, when it comes to the preseason. And also, thirdly, we will also be talking about um, fan problems during the preseason, right? Um, so we're going to get into all those. No particular order, so it's probably not going to be the order that I just named, but we're going to get into those three things. So, first, problem with the NFL preseason. And it's going to be a little bit of a combination that is actually going to touch base with the other two things. And that is really, the way the preseason is done. Every coach has their own style, right? On how they handle the preseason. Every organization has their style. Um, you never really know, who's going to be playing that preseason game, how long they're going to be playing in that preseason game, if they're going to sit out the entire preseason, who is going to be sitting out. Uh, really until they're on the field and playing. Um, they keep a lot of that, close to the vest. And there's a few problems with this. Okay. So let's tackle the very first problem is so defense. We've heard it time and time again. Defenses, offenses win games, but defenses win championships, right? Okay. So two, like if somebody's doing really, really good in the preseason or something like that, you hear fans like immediately like, yeah, that's our guy, that's our guy, that's our dude. He's going to do great things. And then he may not even end up playing in the season at all. And, or they'll be talking like, oh, he's better than the starter. And then, he gets put in a regular season game and does absolutely nothing or terrible. And that's because, as far as on the offensive guys side go, you're playing against second and a lot of times the third string defense. And that's not going to really tell you how good that offensive person is. And coaches, too, they know this and they do this, and they also do this a lot of times to kind of test some of these rookies that they got, right? Sometimes a rookie's highly touted enough that we can sit them out there in the entire preseason, which just seems like stupid. Let's get them some experience at least, at that higher level, right? But neither here nor there. It's definitely a problem, but you're like, oh, okay, this guy, he's going to be amazing, and he's playing against second and third string defense. It's not really going. Yeah, it's going to be like a high college level, but it's not going to be a big difference between what they were playing in college when it's like when they get to the third string, or like the second string playing against like colleges like Alabama, Nebraska, um, those big, always in the top five, schools, right? Year after year, and there's a reason for this, because those schools they get the players and they're pretty much like that, which is also why they usually get a lot of people drafted from those schools because they're highly touted, have a good program, and well, when you're winning, you're seen more often, right? But then at the same time, your school's usually a lot better than the other teams, so you're not really getting tested to the same level. So, yeah. there's a problem there too. But that's neither here nor there either. But again, you're playing against these second and third string defenses, uh, and like I said, second string, yeah, it's going to be better than even like your Alabama or Nebraska or Ohio State or something like that. You're going to be or Texas. You're going to be you're going to be better because it's still in just to get in the NFL anyway. Like everybody's at the elite level anyway, and then of course there's levels of eliteness, right? Um, but yeah, there's still a big gap difference between third string in the NFL, second string in the NFL, and first string in the NFL. Even if you're on the worst team, doesn't matter. There is big differences between those strings, and um, yeah, you're not really testing them to the same level, and you have people that are like, yeah, that's our dude, that's our guy. You have coaches being like, yeah, maybe we should start this guy when it comes time for the season, and then you kind of regret it. That's because they weren't really getting tested. And then on the flip side of that too, um, like take your defenses, right? A lot of times when we get into the season, we we don't really we see like um, defenses really struggle the first 3 to 4 weeks, and then we start seeing them get into a groove, right? Settle in. Um, Now you may have like a couple standouts really in the first like 2 or 3 weeks, right? And it's because well they're already the elite of the elite, and even them not in season shape is gonna be better than after guys get into season shape, right? So again, because there's levels to everything, but the thing is like and I understand on another degree why coaches do this. Same reason they withhold their big name starters on offense. They'll withhold, a lot of most of the time their entire first string defense, and that's because they don't want any key injuries before the season even kicks off. Um, so I get it, but there's also an inherent problem with this, and that's that you're going into the season not in your best condition or shape, because there's a reason why usually both on offense and defense guys aren't in season form until like after week 3 or after week 4, because it's much different getting the practices as well as playing the games during the season than you do training camp to get in shape. There's a difference between getting back into regular shape and getting into game peak performance shape. And so really they need to use the preseason really to get those defensive guys into season performing shape, so that way they have better chance of winning more games and helping themselves out to get into the playoffs as well as a championship, right? But they don't do that. And also too, like I said, now as far as daily fantasy sports go, that really hurts whenever you're picking your defenses, right? Because, well, again, there's big levels, and you don't know really how that second or third string defense is going to do, uh, against these second or most of the time third string, offensive guys, and you don't really know how that's going to mesh up. Uh, there could be inherent holes there that the first string doesn't have at all, and it's like a completely different team defensive wise. Not as much as the team's regular identity. Um, so that creates problems, when you're picking your defenses. It also creates problems when you're picking your offenses because, too, just like the defense, where they're only using their most of the time third string for the most part, second string a little bit towards the end of the preseason. A lot of times heavy on the second string, but very rarely do you see your first string. You may see some players. You may see maybe towards the last week, maybe a quarter of play or something like that. Um, but that's usually about it. And on the offensive side, then you're really not getting these guys into game ready or seeing what they have either because, well, the guys around them aren't as good and not going to be as good as the guys that they would be playing with on the first string. Also, the defense is not going to be good enough to really give them a true test of their ability. And again, when you're doing the daily fantasy sports, I always really urge people when it comes to the preseason, don't don't do daily fantasy sports during the preseason. Don't don't pick people unless you're really going to plan on doing whatever the a max amount of entries that you're allowed to do is, because it's pretty much like playing golf. You kind of want to pick the lowest scoring team. You want to really be looking for the guys that uh, would be scoring the least if you were really picking during the season, because you're looking for guys that probably aren't going to play, because those are the guys that are playing. And it's a lot harder to do because you really don't know how much this second stringer or third stringer is going to play either. But they're usually the ones that are playing in it. So, yeah, I strongly urge against people, playing in those because of those, right? Just don't throw your money at it. Don't waste it, because that's pretty much what you're doing. Then you can't really do statistical analysis and true picks like you can during the season. Okay. Now it's a good thing to watch and look for players. Like if you haven't done your season long teams, whether you're doing fantasy football or um, doing like a best ball play, uh, where you're looking for people that you may want like deep in the draft. For those pretty late rounders, uh, as well as like some of your rookies. Like, okay, well, it looks like he's doing okay, and he may actually get some game time. I'll chance it. Maybe it'll be an injury, or he'll move up in the charts later in the season, something like that. Yeah, that's kind of what to use the preseason for if you're a fantasy player. Okay, um, but yeah, don't be picking daily fantasy sports, and paying for those entries unless you're doing the max amount of entries, because chances of you picking the winning team or a team that's going to place and actually get your money back at least is just really not that high. Where if you're smart and you know what you're doing, you can do that easily during the season. Okay. Um, but yeah, so from a coaching standpoint, the offense side, you're not testing your players. Defense side, you're not testing your players. On both sides of the ball, you're not getting your guys into proper shape for the actual season. You're also really not getting their chemistry down either, which is also a huge part, and it's something that I really didn't mention. Um, So yeah, and then lastly, let's talk about the fan side. And since preseason is here, that's why we're talking about it. Preseason is here, and it never fails. Fans are going to go out there and they're going to be like, "Hey, we won a preseason game. This is our year." Okay, your second or third string beat a second or third string defense. That doesn't really mean that you would beat the first string defense, and uh, vice versa. Your second and third string defense held up against their second and third string offense. Doesn't mean that they would hold your first string defense would hold up against their first string offense. It's hogwash. It's it's complete fakeness. You don't know, and it's not the time to talk like, "Hey, this is our year. We got this," or even be looking at a guy and being like, "Hey, this is our guy right here. He's doing great." I mean, uh, did you see that 60-yard run? Yeah, I saw it. So, hmm, he's a professional athlete who's a good athlete. Not impressed. Um, do that against a first string defense. We'll talk. Um, and then like guys do that during the season all the time, and first, uh, against first string defenses. It's the ones who do it consistently, right? I'm not going to go ahead and look at one play and be like, yeah, that's the guy you watch out for. Uh, Now, there's guys that I'll be like, oh, okay, I'm going to put that guy on my radar and I'm going to be paying a little bit more attention to him closer than what I normally would have. Like, during I believe it was week one, uh, the season last year, very first time Hampton, for the Chargers, touched the ball. I was like, wow, that kid has some potential. And I'm going to be paying attention to him, and I think he can do big things. And really, he wasn't getting many touches really until like after week I think it was like 6, maybe 8. So really, he got about a half season of play, um, and it's projected to be their starter this year and be more heavily involved, right? Um, but yeah, I mean, there are those, of course, rare instances where you see a guy that's like, oh, wow, uh, did you see that cut he just made? Uh, did you see the explosive speed? Did you see that spectacular catch? That pinpoint throw? Uh, now, or did you see that? Did you see him swat that catch? Did you see that interception read? Uh, did you see that tackle? Did you see that sack? Did you see that block? Whatever the case may be. Yeah, there can be those instances, but when it's in the preseason, because you're going against the weaker talent, though, you can't really hold it as well. At least like again with the Hampton, yeah, I was like, okay, I'm gonna watch that guy, and I think he could be something. And still, yeah, I mean, obviously, we're talking about very early in somebody's career still, right? Yes, last season was his first season. Um, yeah, so really, book's still out. He could go out there and completely flop this year, right? Um, that kind of stuff happens. But but at least whenever I saw that, it was like, hey, I'm going to watch him closer, and that he may be something. At least it was during the regular season. So he was playing against, the first string. He wasn't going against a second or third string. But yeah, I mean, it's okay to get excited about somebody during the preseason. And I'm not saying like fans like should be like, oh, I'm not gonna watch this guy, or I'm not gonna watch my team, or not watch the preseason at all, and I don't care about this or I don't care about that. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when you're when it's time for the preseason, just kind of see like if it's consistent. Okay, if you get some type of consistent type plays, even if it's against weak, I mean, at least it's weak talent. At least then it's showing that okay, they they can at least consistently beat that level of talent. Okay, um, and that's still good. Now, of course, that still doesn't mean that they can do consistent beating talent at the first string level. But if they're failing, or just getting a hit here or there, um, at that level, and it's not a consistent play, then the chances that it's going to be consistent at the higher level is also not going to be that high, right? Um, so yeah, just put some thought into it. Um, and it's something again. This is Bud's Hot Sports Takes. It's a hot take for a reason. Um, it's because it's something that uh, a lot of people do, and a lot of people, and it's consistent, and it's a problem in that industry. It's a problem with the fan base. It's a problem with the coaching system, and it's something It's everybody does it, and then they do it at a high amount, and kind of sick of hearing it. In the preseason, it's like uh, it's just as laughable as, and I'll be the first one to admit it. Okay, Cowboys fans, they get a lot of slack. They're like, uh, a lot of people harsh on them about it, and it's not always fair. But they're always like, "This is our year." Like I guarantee, like if they win the first game of the season, told you guys, this is our year. It's gonna happen, right? If that happens. Um, but yeah, it's just as laughable when you're talking like that during the preseason, as whenever they do that at like week 1 or week 2, week 3, right? Um, it's too early. Anyway, that's all I got to say about it. Again, I'm Bud with Bud Hot Sports Take. Thank you for listening. Feel free to like, dislike, subscribe, comment. You can do any of that stuff, and you can do it below. Thank you.